I'll tell you what, March Madness technically is not here yet, but this weekend sure felt like March. Welcome back to the Sports Raid College Basketball Edition. This is the beginning of me breaking down every game leading up to the March Madness tournament. Starting off, obviously, the ASUN tournament kicks off today. I want to talk a little bit about the Big Ten action. We saw a ton of crazy games overall this weekend, but especially in the Big Ten. TikTok, welcome as well. Come join the YouTube where you can comment. We can ask your questions, shoot away. But getting ready into this, MSU sucks. Well, yeah, the Big Ten completely had probably the most insane weekend out of everybody. And we're going to go right into that. Starting off with the Big Ten, what teams blew it for themselves? And you know what? My boy Nico said it best to start. Michigan State didn't blow their chances of making March Madness, but they definitely hurt their seed with that loss. That was just a bad loss to have. You were up, I believe it was 13 with a minute and a half to go, and you lost. And it wasn't even like they were missing free throws. I would just hit every shot. I just couldn't miss. So that definitely hurt Michigan State, but I really want to talk about yesterday, what we saw with the Wisconsin and Michigan game. Wisconsin and Michigan was a great game overall. Michigan was up 8 at half, and they ended up blowing the lead. And Wisconsin was up with about, 13 seconds left? No, 6 seconds left. Trying to remember exactly. It was 7 seconds left. But now they're in 8th seed before they were 6. I had them around a 7 or 8. Or I think I had them at 7. I think I had them in the early part of 7. In my bracketology. So it definitely knocked them down a bit. They definitely slid down to about an 8 or 9 for me. Probably about the middle of the 8. I'd probably say the 2nd or 3rd, 8th seed. But talking about let's go back to the Michigan-Wisconsin game. Wisconsin was up with about, I think it was 8.7 seconds left. They were up 3. They didn't foul. They let Michigan get the ball across half court. They let them get it in the corner. Thankfully for them, they blocked it. And then Hunter Dickinson with a NBA range three-pointer from about 5-7 feet behind the three-point line, just chucks up a prayer and hits it to win the game, to send the game to overtime for Michigan, which was big because Michigan and Wisconsin, bubble teams right there. Both of them were on the bubble. Michigan's made a very big surge as of the last few weeks to try to force themselves into the tournament after a tough loss. This was a big win to have. They won this, and this is big because now if Wisconsin won this game, it really would have hurt Michigan in 2 ways. Obviously, it would have hurt them overall because it would have knocked them down and you lost to a bubble team. But Wisconsin would have had a 2-0. They would have swept them this season, which would have been in any scenario where those two were tied, where it was like, should we put Wisconsin or Michigan in, which it very well could come down to. Wisconsin would have had the edge. But Michigan, it comes into my next point. They're one of the teams that saved it. They saved it for themselves yesterday with a massive win. That 3 that forced overtime, and then when it went in overtime, it was all Michigan the rest of the way. They completely controlled it in overtime. I thought Michigan was the better team overall in that game. I would have been really upset if Michigan lost. But obviously, yes, I did have Michigan money line too. All right, that is part of it. But it was just a great – all in all, Michigan really impressed me yesterday, and they've really impressed me the last few weeks, especially with the way they're moving on offense. Earlier in the season, it felt like all their offense was through Jett Howard and Hunter Dickinson. And we've seen guys step up. Bufkin yesterday was playing out of his mind. And that is very important for Michigan. If they want to make a similar run that they made last year going in as an 11 seed, going to the Sweet 16, if they want to do something like that again this season, you're going to need guys like Bufkin to step up. You can't rely solely on Jett Howard and Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson has been very, very good this year. I know Mondo Baycott pretty much controlled the whole game against him, but overall, Michigan really, really took a very big step in the right direction with their win yesterday against Wisconsin. Another team that blew it yesterday. This one hurts a little bit. Obviously North Carolina basketball comes first for me, but I got to cheer for my local boys. I got to cheer for Penn State. They're not going to be able to make the tournament unless they win the Big Ten. They blew a perfect opportunity up 13 at one point against Rutgers. Really could have put Rutgers on the bubble if they would have been able to win that game. Really would have helped themselves because it would have put Rutgers on the bubble and put them in a position now where they could potentially jump Rutgers if they faced off in the Big Ten tournament. But now Penn State relies on the Big Ten tournament. They want cold. You can't go they won I think it was 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Yes, that's what it is. 9 minutes and 37 seconds. I have it here. They went without a field goal to close out the game. That cannot happen. They rely way too much on Jalen Pickett. Jalen Pickett did not have the best game in the world yesterday. Seth Lundy, where were you? Where were you? Where were the role players? Where were the guys that were supposed to complement Jalen Pickett? Jalen Pickett's been a one-man show a lot of times for Penn State, especially the last few weeks. He's kind of willed them to a couple nice wins. We all know Kansas is going to win the whole thing. We'll see. We'll see. But Jalen Pickett has really willed them to a lot of wins over the last few weeks. And it just – they really, really blew their opportunity. I mean, let's look where they're currently. Let's look at the KenPom. 14th best offense in the country. They have the best turnover percentage, and they are a top 10 three-point shooting team. That defense is bad, though. The defense is bad, and they have their rebounding game is what kills them. They allow teams to get so many second chance opportunities, and they don't get any second chance points. They're, I believe, in the 300. What are they? 363 in KenPom in offensive rebounds. That is terrible. You're going to have to rebound the ball. Rebounding the ball is a huge thing. Rebounding and turnovers are probably the two biggest things I look at when I'm looking at March Madness. And they're two categories that they are terrible at. They're currently ranked overall. Where is their overall ranking for KenPom? I don't know exactly. But Jalen Pickett's been the 8th ranked player in the season so far. But Seth Lundy, Andrew Funk, Cameron Winter all went to sleep yesterday. The offensive rating for Jalen Pickett has been out of this world. He's currently sitting at a 122.7, which is good for 78th in the entire country. It's just another thing where they rely too much on Jalen Pickett. It's hurt so many times this season. Rutgers is an example. That hurt them. What else did hurt them? Maryland. That was another game. Jalen Pickett. They relied too much on him. Hurt them. Oh, Nebraska. Hurt them. Wisconsin relied on Jalen Pickett. That hurt them. They lost in overtime in that game. It's just they're not in a great spot going forward. I don't really see Penn State making the tournament at this point unless they win the Big Ten. They blew that yesterday with that loss. Teams like UNC and Mississippi State picking up huge wins this past weekend. Penn State is definitely in severe danger now of missing the tournament. Let's look at their quad records. Let's look at their quad splits because that's the biggest thing when you look at March Madness. The committee loves to look at the quadrant splits. So we'll look at Penn State. Where is Penn? Sorry, I got to find this real quick. Penn State is currently sitting. They are 3-7 in quad 1, 4-4 in quad 2. You can't be less than 5. You can't be 500 in quad 2 and expect to make the tournament. Penn State, I'm sorry. Your bubble just got burst. They are now, we could put them in consideration still. I wouldn't say they're completely out of the picture, but they're off the bubble at this point. I don't even have them on the bubble anymore. I had them on my first 4 out heading into this weekend, and the way that game went, losing that game, definitely hurts Penn State. But now I want to turn over. Let's look at the ASUN tournament. This is something I want to spend a lot of time looking at. So here's what the ASUN tournament bracket looks like as of now. You can see you got Queens and Florida Gulf Coast play today, and then Northern Florida and Bellarmine play as well today. So let's just look at different parts of this tournament. Northampton winning the Natty. I hope so. Hey, region playoffs start tomorrow. So starting off with the dark horse, my dark horse to win this entire tournament. Look out for the Queens boys. Listen, they can't make the NCAA tournament because they are in their first year as a Division I program. But this team's been pretty good this year. This team has been pretty good this year. I really like the way they played. They've shot the ball very well from 3, which has been a huge thing for them. They currently sit with a 0-1 quad 1 record, a 1-2 quad 2 record. It's different for them, obviously, because they're in a weaker Power 5 conference. But looking at their KenPom stats, KenPom, the biggest – listen, if you want to talk about college basketball, invest in KenPom. It was the best investment I probably ever made in my entire life. I love KenPom. I look at it probably on a daily basis. It is so helpful. It literally it breaks down everything. You learn so much. And it will not take me to Queens. All right, Ken. I would love if Ken would pull me up to Queens here. All right, we got Queens. So Queens currently sits with a 112 offensive rating, 315 defensive rating. My predictions for tonight. I think Queens is going to take down Florida Gulf Coast. We saw these teams play a few weeks ago. It's at Queens again. It was at Queens, and they won by 2. Queens, I really like Queens to win this game tonight. I think we're going to really see an offensive explosion, especially from three. The 3-point ball is going to be their key tonight against Florida Gulf Coast. They've shot the three well a lot this season, a lot of games, a lot of their wins at least. They've shot like Florida, their highest 3-point games. They beat Kennesaw State, who's the number 1 seed. And I think that's where I put them as my dark horse to win it. They've already beaten Kennesaw State, who's the number 1 seed in the tournament. They played Liberty tough. They've played Liberty tough the first time they played the season. Not as much the second time. It was at Liberty. It's always a little bit different when you're on the road, and it's not a championship-style game. But, I mean, overall, Kenny Dye, the senior guard for Queens, is going to be the biggest impact tonight. If he's on his game, they can win this game. He's one of the nationally ranked players on their team. He's actually has the 40th highest minute percentage in the entire country. Kenny Dye is going to be the key for Queens to win this game tonight. Defensively, you're going to need to see guys like BJ McLaurin step up for them. They're going to have guys like, they're not going to be able to rely on their stars as much. This is conference tournament time. This isn't like happen to be a regular season home game. This is the big time. The lights are on. This is the biggest moments of the season. Who is going to step up? And obviously, Queens, they have a little less to play for. They can't make the NCAA tournament. But I could see them being like a Belmare from last year. I could really see it. You know, they shoot that. I've said it already. They shoot the three so well. They are currently 42nd in 3 points made. Sorry, my mouth is getting a little dry. But you know, the defensive end is where the game is gonna be won or lost. AJ McKee, Kenny Dye, obviously those are your stars, but you're gonna have to rely on your impact players, your role players like BJ McLaurin and Jaden Turner. If those guys don't have good games, you are not going to have conference tournament success. Stars push you over the edge, but your role players are what put you in a position to win the game. If you do not have good role players, if you do not have good guys, you are not going to do well in your conference tournament, and you're not going to do well in March Madness. And what Queens need to do for the future of their program, just turned D1 this year, is they need to set a foundation. And this is a great way to set a foundation. Be like, you can go to recruits now, and you can be like, listen, we won our conference tournament. We couldn't make March Madness. Sucks, whatever. But now you have something to pitch to your recruits. Now you have a little something else that you can throw at your recruits. Yeah, we took down the number 1 seed twice in a season. Number 1 team in our conference. We took them down twice in a season. That is things that Queens is going to be fighting for in their matchup today. Now let's look at Florida Gulf Coast a little bit. You know, they're kind of an average team on offense and defense. They're about middle of the road, both offensively and defensively. They're on the higher side offensively, lower side defensively. But their struggle is they have a tough time defending the three. And that is where I think Queens gets them. That's what helped Queens win the first matchup against them. Even though Florida Gulf Coast had one of their better offensive games, is Florida Gulf Coast has a tougher time defending the three compared to a lot of teams. That's where their defense tends to struggle. So I'm very excited to see this matchup tonight. One of the games I'm going to be looking at, obviously I'm watching North Carolina. You know, we're fighting for our entire season. But I am going to definitely tune into the ASUN tournament. And they just, it's so tough. It's so tough. You know, they have a tough time. I mean, they have a tough time defending mid-range too. They allow a lot of shot attempts. That's their thing. They allow a lot of shot attempts overall. If they can limit the shot attempts from Queens, especially from deep, I really think Florida Gulf Coast is going to give them a run for their money tonight. But my first prediction is I'm going to lean Queens to take down Florida Gulf Coast tonight. I'm pretty confident in that. Now let's look at the other matchup. We have Northern Florida taking on, I believe it was, let me double check off the top of my head, Belmare. All right, so this is going to be a good one. Belmare, remember last year, Belmare won the conference tournament, but they were only in their second year of Division I. You have to be in for at least 4 years. Northern Florida does not stand a chance tonight. I wouldn't say doesn't stand a chance. I don't see Northern Florida winning this game. I really don't see how Northern Florida wins this game. Northern Florida, piss poor defensively, and they turn the ball over a lot. They have the 360th worst turnover percentage. I'm pretty confident that Belmare is going to win this game. All right, let's look. I just want to look at the line for this game. I really want to look at the line for this game because this is very interesting to me because I believe, honestly, when I checked earlier, I think they might have been the favorite. And I don't know why they would be. They're definitely not my favorite to win today. Yet they are currently a 2.5-point favorite. I know it's at home, so maybe that has a little something to do with it. But defensively, they are terrible. They are horrible on the defensive end. When these two teams matched up earlier, Belmare beat them. Was that Belmare? And I believe that's the only matchup. The only one matchup. Wow, interesting. Bellemere beat the shit out of him. Bellemere beat him by 12. Oh, I'm sorry. They beat him by 12 at home, at Northern Florida, which makes me a little scared because this line is 2.5, but it's conference tournament time. Listen, Bellemere is one of my favorite games of the day. I love this Bellemere team. I'm very excited to see what they're going to be able to do once they are able to compete in the NCAA tournament. Bellemere's another team they got to set a foundation. Next year, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament position. They got to still be able to pitch those recruits. Hey, come here. We've won the conference tournament twice. I know we're not a March Madness team yet, but come here. Let's build this. Let's build a foundation. Let's put this program in a great position. Overall, Bellemere, let's look at what they've got. They haven't had the season of their dreams. They beat Louisville early in the year. They competed with Duke for a little bit, but I'm sorry. Northern Florida beat them. I'm sorry. Northern Florida beat them. The projection on KenPom has Northern Florida winning. But I mean, when I looked at that game, they was one of their worst shooting games of the entire season. I'm very excited though because Garrett Tipton, he didn't play. He had a very, very bad game. What happened, brother? What happened? I don't know. Tell me what happened. Garrett Tipton had a very, very poor game against Northern Florida the first time, so I'm definitely expecting a bit better game out of him tonight. Peter Stutter is another guy who I'm expecting. He's their main ball handler. He has the ball more than anybody on the team. His defensive, it's tough. I mean, Peter Sutter, he's just a freshman. That's the thing. He's just a freshman, so it's tough. He doesn't have this big time game experience yet because he's just a freshman. But he is good, man. He is good. He just doesn't miss. He does not miss from the mid-range. He is such a good mid-range shooter. He's so good at posting up. For somebody who's only 6'5", the only issue with him is he is not very good from three. And that's what scares me about him, is he is not very good from three. Now that I look at this a little bit more, will Virginia have some transfers next season? We'll get to that in just a moment. Now that I look at this game a little bit more, I kind of lean Northern Florida. When I just looked at it from just looked at it, bones dry. I really, really like Bellemere. But now that I look at this a little bit more, I mean, Bellemere, jeez. The thing is, Northern Florida matches up well with Bellemere because Bellemere's defense is not great either. And their offense has been kind of weak this season. I'm a little disappointed. They were much better last year. They don't rebound the ball either. They do not rebound the ball, especially offensively. They don't get offensive rebounds. I'm actually going to take Northern Florida. I was very, very excited, and I really, really wanted to take Bellemere. But the more I look at the numbers, the more I look at the numbers now, I am taking Northern Florida. I'm taking Northern Florida. Northern Florida is going to win this game. It's just simple as that. Northern Florida is going to win. So my prediction for who's going to win the conference tournament, though, who's going to win the entire ASUN, there's only one team really that you can pick. I mean, it's Liberty. Liberty is a dog. They are one of the most underrated teams in the country. Liberty is going to beat somebody in March Madness. 59th ranked in offensive. 42nd best defense via KenPom. They have one of the best defensive rebounding percentage. They allow the least amount of offensive rebounds in a game on average. This team is going to be a threat come March. I'm just saying, watch out for them come March because this team, they rebound the ball, they take care of the basketball, and they force turnovers. That is what you need to pull off upsets in March. If you match them up with a team that does the opposite, if you match them up with, like, say, I don't know, who's the team? UConn. They kind of turn over the ball a lot more than they should. Liberty might take them down. Liberty is going to be a threat. They're going to be that 12 or 13 seed. I'm telling you, when you're picking your upsets this March, you must pick Liberty. Liberty is one of my favorite underdogs, one of my favorite Cinderellas this season is Liberty. This team on both sides of the ball is complete. When you have a guy like Darius McGee, who is an absolute star, he's currently ranked as the 10th best player on via KenPom. He shoots the ball well. He plays defense well. He doesn't turn over the ball. He doesn't miss a lot. He gets a lot of steals. This guy is a dog, and their role players are on another level too. Colin Porter, freshman. He's only 5'9". He's a little bit short, but he's still a stud. Blake Preston, another guy who I really, really, really like. He's one of the higher rated offensive players among mid-majors. This team is set up for success. They are set up to pull off an upset. And I really, really think that we're going to see this upset. We are going to see an upset become, I think this is their tournament. I really like Kennesaw State. Listen, Kennesaw State is a very, very good program. Kennesaw State has a lot going for them. They lost to Liberty earlier in the year. They snuck out the one. Kennesaw State, Kennesaw State just kind of, Kennesaw State, the thing is, Kennesaw State lacks a star. Their best player is Terrell Burden. He is a star because he's on Kennesaw State. They have a lot of solid players. Chris Youngblood, very, very good player. Brandon Stroud, another very, very good player. But all in all, this is Liberty's conference to lose. I would be completely stunned if Liberty doesn't win this conference. And I'm very excited because I think, I'm telling you now, Liberty is going to pull off an upset in March Madness. Get a real job. I'm in college. But yeah, Liberty is gonna pull off an upset come March, and they're gonna win this conference tournament. Now let's switch over to my plays of the day. We'll start off my favorite play today. Listen, I'm not a very big expert amongst these ACE conferences like the ASUN. I'm trying to get more familiar with that. Power 6 conferences, I know my stuff, but ASUN, that's where I struggle. Like conferences like the ASUN, the lower level mid majors, as time goes on, obviously it'll improve. Let's roll in with my first play. I have Baylor on the money line at Oklahoma State. Listen, we're at the point where Vegas taught us a lot last week. Vegas, they set these lines that we thought were typical, this is a trap line. Take the opposite. I know this may be a trap line. Baylor's money line's only at minus 135, and I know Baylor cannot buy a win on the road. But I am done with Oklahoma State. This team is not going to make the tournament. I think their hopes get shattered tonight when they lose to Baylor. Keontae George is one of my favorite players in the entire country. He's one of my favorite draft prospects coming into this next NBA draft. I love the way he plays on both sides of the ball. He's been a huge impact for Baylor. Baylor has one of the best, if not the best offense in the entire country, and it is led by Keontae George. They shoot well. They rebound the ball well. They don't turn it over too much. Adam Flagler is another guy who's been an absolute stud this season, along with Jalen Bridges and Langston Love. I really like this Baylor team come March, and I think they take care of business and they beat Oklahoma State tonight. They got to win some games on the road, though. That's the only thing that concerns me, is because obviously come March, you're not at your home court. You're playing in a neutral site. Baylor has to find a way to start winning games on the road, and I think tonight's a great step in the right direction. Give me Baylor on the money line. Next up, back to the ASUN. I like the boys at Queens. Listen, if you just heard what I said, I really like Queens. I think they're a sleeper to win this entire thing. And obviously, Florida Gulf Coast, everyone knows them for when they were Dunk City, Lob City, whatever. Kenny Dye is going to go on an absolute tear in this tournament, and I think it starts tonight. I really like Queens at home. Remember, their conference, they play their games at home. That's a huge impact. That really can affect, what happens, that outcome. The crowd matters. The environment matters. Kenny Dye, AJ McKee, Jaden Turner, get the job done tonight. Queens on the money line, minus 157. Now for my play of the day, and then we'll craft up a play together. We can craft up a play together if you guys would like. Play of the day, North Carolina on the money line. Iowa State on the money line gives you minus 101 odds. North Carolina's back is so far against the wall. They're in the other room. It is a must-win game for them the rest of the way. Queens just like you. Thanks. Their back is so far against the wall. They're in the other room. There's no way they're going to lose this game. I think that they're going to blow out Florida State. We saw the way they played against Virginia. That is the North Carolina team that I've been dying to see all season. Why I picked them, or I'm also a North Carolina fan. That's also why I picked them to win the national championship for the season. But I really did like this team coming in. Peter Nance really stepped up. He is going to be the X factor for North Carolina going forward, because Brady Manek is the X factor for North Carolina last year. A 6'9" guy that can stretch the floor, play defense, hit threes, get rebounds. We saw all of that from Pete Nance for one of the first times this season on Saturday against Virginia. And that was a huge impact on why they were able to beat Virginia. And I think they do it once again. They take down Florida State tonight. And then I have Iowa State on the money line as well. Iowa State needs this one bad. Iowa State went from a ranked team to now a team I think is in danger of being a lower seed, being in that 8 or 9. You don't want that matchup. Iowa was in a perfect position for a 5 or 6. I have them around a 7 now. They're going to have to win this game tonight. They're going to have to beat West Virginia at home. They're coming off, I believe, 2 or 3. I think it was back-to-back losses for Iowa State. Let's double check this. I always like to double check. Anyway, they're coming off back-to-back. Okay, yep, and Kemp. I'm trying to find their exact how many games. I know they lost at least 2 in a row. I want to say it was 3. I do believe they lost 3 in a row. But Iowa State, they have lost. Yep, 3 in a row. 5 of their last 6, 7 of their last 9, and 8 of their last 11. They need this one bad. They get the job done tonight in their building at home. Give me Iowa State on the money line. Parlay with North Carolina because those money lines obviously don't have a great payout. This is my favorite play today. This is my play of the day. All right, guys. So if we want to roll over, we can, we can create a play together. What games are we looking at? Here, I'll pull up the board. We'll pull it up via FanDuel for this. I don't use FanDuel, but thoughts on Nebraska player. I haven't watched a ton of Nebraska, but I really, Nebraska's a very interesting team. Nebraska's had some very, very, very good games this season. I saw them against Penn State where they shot the lights out of the building. I believe that's who you're talking about. Let me double check. No. Yeah, that's who you're talking about. Yeah. He shot the lights out of the building against Penn State. I think he's a very, very good three-point shooter. He scares me a little bit on the defensive end. He's kind of small, and he hasn't really had the best. There has been a lot of games where, he just hasn't done much. But I think he'll be solid. I believe he's only a junior, so I think he's coming back for at least one more year. He may be back for a few more. But he's a little undersized. I know he's 6'2", but even width-wise, he's a little undersized, but he shoots the three well. He plays hard on defense. He's not great defensively, but he plays hard. So I like him. He's going to be a solid contributor for them, obviously, next year. But I don't think he's a superstar. So what is any plays we're looking at? So games I'm looking at for a play today, we could go with this Bel Air North Florida game. I'm probably going to stay away. Weber State, Northern Arizona. Nope, not take. Already touched that. Yeah, the slate's kind of thin today. Honestly. North Carolina, the line's at 7.5. I like North Carolina at 7.5. The thing I don't like about North Carolina at 7.5, though, is the line came out at 9. And it's moved down 1.5, which scares me. But, they're not losing tonight. That's what I'm not worried about. I'm worried about them covering. I don't see North Carolina losing tonight, though. That is not something I'd worry about. I think I might just stay away. I think I like the plays I got. Maybe Northern Florida on the money line. Or I kind of like the over. Not really, though. Let's look again on their offensive. See, it's just tough because both Northern Florida and Bellarmine are terrible offensively and defensively. Like, they're not good at either. Like, whoever wins this game is getting bounced in the next round by Liberty. Liberty's going to dog walk whoever they play in the next round. I'll tell you now, I don't care what the spread is. I'm taking Liberty spread against either one of these teams. They are going to dog walk them in the next round. And I'm saying right now, Queens is going to beat Kennesaw State. I think it's going to happen again. Queens is going to beat them. Watch out for Queens. Those boys at Queens, they're good, man. But I think I'm going to stay away from the rest of the board. Nothing that really jumps out to me. If there's anything else that pops up. And also, so make sure you go follow me on Twitter at @Cole_Tom. All my plays are going to be out there. And any NBA plays I have tonight will also be out there. So make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of The Sports Rate. I'll be live again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Make sure you tune in. If you're on TikTok, it'll be on here on YouTube again. Listen, I know it's a little weird. It's kind of a thin slate. I did talk about the ASUN. I'm not too familiar with it. I watched the ASUN from time to time. I tried to familiarize myself a little bit more heading into it. But once we get into the more juicier games, the games you guys really care about, tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about seedings. I'll give you a little bit of my preview on bracketology. And then by the end of the week, I will come out with a full bracketology, every single seed, every single matchup, and why I think certain teams will break the bubble and why I think certain teams are off the bubble. Every day we'll tell you teams that are on the bubble. We'll talk about teams that are off the bubble right now. Obviously, we talked a little bit about it. Penn State off the bubble. Michigan on the bubble now. So, like I said, North Carolina, they're on the bubble. Are they going to be on the first in? Are they going to stay on the first? Are the last in? Or are they going to move to the first out? Whatever. But thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Sports Raid, and I'll see you guys next time.